Have you ever wondered what a desperate man can do when hunger grips his family? What if the only way to survive was through the death of others? Would you take fate into your own hands? In the quiet town of Obinagu, one man did just that, and the entire town had no idea they were living with a monster.
If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please support us by hitting the subscribe button. Like, share, and share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks.
Obinagu was a peaceful town, blessed with long life and good fortune. The people were hardworking, humble, and content. They farmed their lands, traded their goods, and wove baskets to sell at the market. Life was simple but beautiful. However, in this town, there was one business that stood alone, one profession that only a single family controlled. The Okeke family was known for one thing: they made coffins. For decades, Azubuike's father Nnemeka had been the only coffin maker in Obinagu. He was a skilled craftsman, building strong, beautifully carved caskets for the dead. It was not just a job, it was a legacy. In the past, people frequently died from minor sicknesses, infections, and accidents. There were no hospitals, no proper medicine. Death was common, and whenever someone died, Nnemeka's workshop was the first place families visited. This business had been good to him. It paid for his wedding, sent his son Azubuike to school, and kept food on their table. But Nnemeka always warned his son, "Azubuike, don't put all your hopes into this business. The world is changing. One day, people will stop dying like before." Azubuike never listened. He believed death was a constant part of life. As long as people died, there would always be a need for coffins. So when his father passed away, Azubuike took over the family business. At first, things were good. When a terrible cholera outbreak hit Obinagu, people died in numbers, including his own mother. It was a heartbreaking time, but Azubuike's business flourished. The demand for coffin was overwhelming. He worked day and night, carving, sanding, and polishing. By the time the outbreak ended, Azubuike had made a fortune. With the money, he built a comfortable 2-bedroom house and married Chidimma, the most beautiful woman in the village. Life was good, but everything changed when the government arrived. For the first time, a real hospital was built in Obinagu. A big modern hospital with real doctors, nurses, and medicine. The town celebrated. No longer would people die from small sicknesses. No longer would families grieve over treatable infections. The government even gave out jobs to locals, and Chidimma was lucky enough to be hired as a cleaner. She was overjoyed. The salary was more than she had ever made as a small-time trader. The family finally had an extra source of income. But for Azubuike, this was the beginning of his downfall. At first, he didn't panic. He thought, hospitals or no hospitals, people will still die. Months passed, then a year, then 2. The demand for coffins vanished. People were no longer dying. The hospital was saving lives, and for the first time, Obinagu had almost no funerals. Azubuike's business collapsed. His workshop, once full of activities, became silent. His workers, who had once been loyal, began leaving one by one. He no longer had money to pay them. His tools gathered dust. His unfinished coffins remained untouched. At home, the situation grew worse. His wife's small salary was barely enough to feed their children, Chibuzo, who was 5 years old, and Adeze, who was also 3 years old. There was no money for new clothes, no money for proper meals. Nights were filled with hunger. His children cried in their sleep. His wife grew thinner by the day. Azubuike sat outside his empty workshop every afternoon, staring at the sky, his mind full of regrets. Maybe my father was right. He remembered the night his father had warned him to learn another trade, but he had been too arrogant, too sure of himself. He had believed the business would never fail. Now he had nothing. But then, one afternoon, something happened. Something that changed everything. Azubuike sat outside deep in thought when he noticed a small boy walking towards the old well near his house. The boy couldn't have been older than 7. He carried a small plastic bucket, struggling under its weight. Azubuike frowned. What is this boy doing here alone? He turned away, shaking his head, but then, help! His head snapped up. He turned toward the well. The boy was gone. For a second, there was silence. Then, from deep inside the well, came the desperate, muffled cries of a child drowning. Azubuike froze. His first instinct was to run and save him. His leg even moved forward. But then, something dark crept into his mind. If he dies, his family will need a coffin. His breath quickened. This is not my fault. I didn't push him. His children were hungry. His wife had suffered. He had lost everything. So instead of helping, Azubuike stepped back and waited. The boy's scream grew weaker, then silent. Only then did Azubuike shout for help. People came running. They pulled the boy out, but it was too late. His family cried. The town grieved. And when they needed a coffin, they came to Azubuike. For the first time in months, he had money. That night, his family ate well. His children were full. His wife smiled for the first time in a long while. Then Azubuike called his wife outside, and as they sat together satisfied, Azubuike turned to Chidimma and asked, "Are you happy?" She nodded. "Yes, especially now that we have money." Azubuike leaned forward, his voice low. "Do you want this to continue?" Chidimma frowned. "What do you mean?" "I have a plan," he whispered, "but I need your help." Her eyes narrowed. "Help with what?" "People don't die anymore because of that hospital." He smiled darkly. "But what if we assisted death?" Chidimma gasped. "Azubuike, what are you saying?" "You work in the hospital. You are in the perfect position to help." She stared at him in horror. "Help how?" He exhaled deeply and spilled the truth. "Make sure the sick never recovers." Chidimma looked at their children, then at the leftover food on the table. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath. Then she opened them and said, "Okay." Azubuike smiled. The plan had begun. The town had no idea what was coming next. The next morning, Chidimma signed into work as usual, her heart racing in her chest. It was her first day carrying out the plan. As she walked through the hospital corridors with her mop and bucket, her eyes scanned the patients, searching for the perfect target. Who will cross over today? She passed by the children's ward. No, too risky. She walked past a man recovering from an accident. No, too strong. Then she arrived at a quiet, dimly lit room. Inside, an old woman lay sleeping, her chest rising and falling steadily. Chidimma stopped. She had overheard nurses saying the woman was miraculously recovering from heart failure. She was on life support, and if all went well, she would soon be discharged. Not anymore. With one last glance at the empty corridor, Chidimma stepped inside. She moved quickly. She grabbed a pillow from the bed and pressed it firmly over the woman's face. The old woman struggled weakly, but Chidimma held on. 1 minute, 2 minutes, then silence. Her hands trembled as she pulled the pillow away, staring at the lifeless body before her. It was done. She hurriedly slipped out of the room, her heart pounding against her rib. Later that evening, news spread around the hospital that the old woman had died. Her heart had finally given out. Nobody suspected a thing. And just as planned, Azubuike was called to provide a coffin. This time, he charged more than double the usual price, knowing that the family had no choice but to buy from him. If they wanted a cheaper coffin, they would have to travel out of town, and they couldn't afford to wait. That night, as the family feasted on a large bowl of rice and chicken, Chibuzo, their 5-year-old son, grinned and said, "Daddy, this chicken is so sweet. Can we eat like this every day and not so gari every night?" Azubuike and Chidimma exchanged knowing glances. Chidimma leaned forward and smiled at her son. "From now on, my dear, we will eat like kings. God has started smiling upon us." Azubuike chuckled, reaching for another piece of meat, but he knew it was not God who was smiling on them. It was death. The following week, Chidimma had a new target, a young man in his 20s, recovering from a serious illness. For days, she observed his medication routine, noting the liquid drug the nurses gave him daily. She waited. One afternoon, when the coast was clear, she sneaked into the storage room and poisoned the medicine. Later that evening, a nurse unknowingly injected the man with the poison drug. Within an hour, he was dead. This time, the hospital was shocked. He was recovering, the doctors whispered. He was getting better, the nurses cried. But there was no explanation. The death was ruled as sudden complication. And once again, Azubuike was called to provide a coffin. He charged even higher than before. With more money coming in, the couple finally felt at peace. "We have made it," Azubuike told his wife one evening, rubbing his full stomach. "Yes," Chidimma agreed, her fingers glistering with oil from fried meat. "Life has changed for us forever, but fate had other plans." That night, Azubuike was deep in sleep when a sharp pain shot through his back, as if someone had flogged him with a cane. He woke up screaming. Chidimma jumped up beside him. "What is it?" she asked, alarmed. Azubuike rubbed his back, his skin burning. "Somebody flogged me," he whispered, looking around wildly. Chidimma frowned. The room was empty. "You were dreaming," she said. "Go back to sleep." But Azubuike knew what he felt, and from that night on, strange things began happening. He started having nightmares, horrific dreams where the young boy from the well chased him through a dark forest, whipping him over and over again. Every morning, Azubuike woke up with bruises on his body. He knew this was not normal. So in secret, he visited a powerful voodoo priest. The man listened, his face grimmed, then he shook his head. "The boy you let die in the well has a strong spirit," the priest said. "He has come for revenge." Azubuike fell to his knees. "Please help me." The priest tried to change the boy's spirit. He performed rituals, chanted incantation, and spilled sacrificial blood, but nothing worked. His spirit cannot be chained, the priest finally said, but I can protect you. With this charm, he will not be able to harm you. Azubuike agreed immediately. From that night, the nightmares stopped. He thought he was safe, but he was wrong. One afternoon, Chidimma went to pick up the children from school. She brought them home, gave them food, and then rushed back to the hospital, leaving them alone. As Chibuzo and Adaeze ate their food, they suddenly heard their father's voice outside. Chibuzo, Adaeze, come outside. Excited, the children ran out, but there was nobody there. Confused, they turned back. Then they heard it again. Come, my children, I'm over here. The voice was coming from the far side of the house. They followed the voice step by step until they reached the old well. They peered inside, and there was their father standing inside the well, smiling. Jump in, he said gently. It is sweet inside. It is fun. The children hesitated, but it was their father. So they jumped, and the moment they did, their father vanished. Only silence remained. By the time anyone realized what had happened, it was too late. Their bodies were pulled out lifeless. Someone ran to Azubuike's shop to deliver the news. He sprinted home, his heart pounding, and when he arrived, he saw his children's cold dead bodies on the ground. Tears poured down his face. His knees buckled. He looked towards the well, and there he saw him. The ghost of the young boy stood there, grinning devilishly. Azubuike screamed, I did nothing to you. I only refused to save you. Why? Unknowingly, he had confessed in front of everyone. Gasps filled the air, and then the police arrived. They had come to arrest him because Chidimma had already been arrested. She had forgotten that the hospital had CCTV cameras. The deaths were reviewed, and she was caught on tape. Azubuike and Chidimma were both sentenced to death by firing squad, and as the bullet rained on them, Azubuike's last vision was the young boy laughing, waiting for him on the other side.
For more interesting and amazing stories like this, subscribe and turn on the notification bell, and thanks for watching. We love you.